Okay, so here's a quick video just explaining the different styles of five-string banjo playing, and this is a sweeping generalization, but it's generally divided into two. There's bluegrass and there's old time for five-string banjo. So bluegrass, being Scruggs style, three-finger style picking, and old time primarily being thought of as clawhammer, but including a wide variety of techniques, including some pre-Scruggs finger picking styles, three-finger styles. And your concern was bluegrass style would be too difficult; it would require too much dexterity for you. And while that is a valid concern, it does require a fair amount of quote unquote grinding to become a good bluegrass banjo player. I mean, that's on a professional level. I mean, there's lots of people who play mediocre bluegrass banjo style picking, and it sounds fine. I say mediocre, compared to the professionals, but it can sound really good at a slower speed, or you can simplify it a lot. But I can just play through some of the styles using the same song, so hopefully you get an idea of what everything sounds like. And I'm using my fretless banjo. Most banjos have frets nowadays, so this won't sound exactly like what a banjo that you would get would probably sound like. And I'm also using Nile gut strings, or like a type of plastic string, as opposed to metal, which is more popular and will give more of a pop. But besides that, it's the same instrument. It functions the same way. You mostly play it the same way. It's just there's some slight differences in the sound. But yeah, bluegrass banjo playing, you put finger picks on your thumb, your index finger, and your middle finger, and you play with those. You basically play these things called rolls, where you go like this, and inside of these rolls, you're trying to put a melody or something like that. So right, and basically you take your picking hand and put the finger picks on, and then you make the Vulcan salute if you know how to do that. And then you take one half of the Vulcan salute, your pinky and your middle finger, and you plant it on the banjo head right next to the bridge, the wooden thing that supports the strings on the banjo head, on the skin head. And then you use the other half of the Vulcan salute, your three fingers with the finger picks, to pick. So I'm not a very good Scruggs style player, so I might be the wrong person to demonstrate this, but I do have the basics of it down, at least for a couple songs. And I did want to demonstrate the styles all using one song, so it would be easier to hear the differences. So I'm going to use Cripple Creek. If you don't know that song, you can check it out. It's an old fiddle tune, not to be confused with the Up on Cripple Creek song by the band. That's a modern pop rock song. But yeah, so if I was to play Scruggs style for Cripple Creek, it would sound something like this. All right, so like I said, I'm not very good, but that is kind of fast for me. And you're worried about it being too complicated. Well, you can, it didn't take me that long to figure that out. But you can also simplify it. Like I could play the song like this. I know a girl at the head of the creek, and I'm going up to see her about the middle of the week. Kiss her on the mouth, just as sweet as wine. Wraps herself around me like a sweet potato vine. Going up to Cripple Creek, going on a run. Going up to Cripple Creek, I'm off to have some fun. Going up to Cripple Creek, going on a whirl. Going up to Cripple Creek, I'm off to see my girl. So that's the same principles of Scruggs style playing, but I've simplified it a lot. I'm just sort of rolling through the chords and then doing an occasional melodic thing that matches what I'm singing. If your goal was just to get to that level, it would be very achievable. And, I think that sounds pretty good, if I do say so myself. But yeah, that's Scruggs style playing. But like I said, that is generally thought of being quite difficult to get to the higher levels of, and that's the bluegrass Scruggs style. And now I'm going to show you some old time style. So old time is like a term for the amalgam folk musics of America, like the pre bluegrass folk music. So bluegrass wasn't invented until the 1940s. So before that, they were playing a bunch of musics, and we now call that old time. It's a modern term for a bunch of different stuff. It's more of a catch-all umbrella term. But yeah, the most popular way to play old time music nowadays is through claw hammer. So you basically take your hand and form it into a claw, like you're holding onto a subway pole, basically, and then you strike down at the string towards your abdomen with your index nail, and at the same time your thumb in this claw shape catches the top string and bounces off. And the basics of it is the basic movement of it is called the bum diddy. Bum. So yeah, that was Cripple Creek clawhammer style, also called frailing, knockdown, rapping, overhand, down picking. Most people call it clawhammer. And that's a popular way to play old time style banjo. And the initial way to do it is pretty hard. Like the hand form, it can be difficult to get that initial. But once you have it, it's actually a pretty easy style, in my opinion. Especially if you're just trying to do stuff like, I got a girl at the head of the creek, and I'm going up to see her about the middle of the week. Kiss her on the mouth, there's a sweet as wine. Wraps herself around me like a sweet potato vine. I'm going to Grip Creek, going on a run. Going to Grip Creek, off to have some fun. That's just a simplified version of that. A lot of people will call a simple version of clawhammer. They'll insist on calling it frailing. So if you want to call that frailing, just playing chords and a little melody. Sometimes going up a cripple creek, going on a run, going up a cripple creek, off to have some fun. Very similar to clawhammer. It's called uppicking, or it's usually called Seeger style uppicking now. For Pete Seeger, who was a big proponent of it. He obviously didn't invent it, but it really only still exists in the popular consciousness because of him, really, because he was such a big player of it. And that's very similar to clawhammer, except instead of the bum diddy being a strike down with the nail, it's a pick up. So you're going from this to this. I'm picking and then brushing, or bum diddy. So I'm not very good at it, but if you wanted to play Cripple Creek that way, it'd be something like this. You see, it's very similar to clawhammer, but got more of a gallop to it, I suppose. And a lot of people find that easier than clawhammer, at least at first, because the regular uppicking is a more natural motion for us, really, or seems more normal. Some other styles, you can, Scruggs style was a 3-finger picking style with finger picks, but they have 2-finger styles where you just use your thumb and your index finger with or without finger picks. I usually do it without finger picks. And there's 3 popular styles of 2-finger picking. There's 2-finger thumb lead, where your thumb plays the melody and your index finger helps with the rolls. There's 2-finger index lead, where your index finger plays the melody and your thumb helps with the rolls. And then there's 2-finger mixed lead, which is whatever. The thumb plays this one, the index finger plays that one. They both do rolls. So I'm pretty good at 2-finger thumb lead and pretty shitty at two-finger index lead, but I'll demonstrate them. So this is two-finger index lead, which again I'm not very good at, but so you can see I'm playing the melody and then just doing this simple roll after each melody note, almost every other melody note or something. The roll right there. So. Alright, and now two-finger index lead, two-finger thumb lead, it's the same principle except I'm using my thumb, so let me do that. So that's two-finger thumb lead, and those are the big ones: two-finger, claw hammer, and three-finger or scrug style. But there's lots of other styles. There's old-time three-finger picking, which is just like a free-for-all of finger picking. And then another style that I've recently been getting into is Travis picking or guitar picking on the banjo, and that's kind of when you play the melody notes in between, like a syncopated bass line. On the guitar, it would be between two low notes, but on the banjo, because of this high string, it's between a high string and a low note. So. So those are the styles I can play. This turned out to be kind of a long video, so I'm sorry about that. But I figured it might be helpful for you deciding what you want to do, and you don't need to do any of those styles either. Some people just take the banjo and play chords like this. I got a girl at the head of the creek, and I'm going up to see her about the middle of the week. Kiss her on the mouth, just as sweet as wine. Wrap herself around me like a sweet potato vine. Going up a cripple creek, going on a run. Going up a cripple creek, off to have some fun. So you get the idea. You can do whatever you want, but there are ways to play that aren't super difficult and don't require hours and hours of practice a day. And my suggestion would probably be to learn claw hammer or two-finger thumb lead. Those are two things that aren't super difficult to get at a basic level and still keep interesting. But if you have any other questions, hit me up. My name's Doc, and I'm happy to help you out with pretty much anything banjo related.